That should kickstart YouTube. I need like somebody in the control booth, so everything is just like ready, and they can just be like, go. That's what I need. Let's see. All right. Okay, I'm dropping the link in the link. That's the YouTube linko. Okay, so then let me do a different one. What I want to bring up is actually use cases. Use cases. And now then the question becomes, okay, yeah, it has to be this one. So this is sort of our introduction to use cases, okay, like use case design. Let me get rid of that. And by the way, can I just say, by way of sort of design decisions, that I made a decision that I was going to wear until I'm actually recovered and putting pants on. I'm going to wear t-shirts okay, for class. And today's t-shirt happens to be Foo Fighters, and it's one of my favorite t-shirts, and it has some lyrics from Foo Fighters from Times Like These. Great tune, great band. And then when I appear again in a button-down shirt, it'll mean that I'm into pants again, and that like my life is, I don't know, returning. I'm just by way of personal sharing. Um, that's how this thing is going to go down. Okay. All right. Hey, so that number, by the way, should say 5. Doesn't much matter. Use cases. Okay, now I started to say last time that use cases were something that, I mean, the whole idea seems sort of dumb on, like of limited utility. And I want to just talk about this. And I'm really cool with, look, we're not a big class, so interactivity is a good thing. Jumping in, making comments, whether they're text or whether you're just jumping in voice, it's either way, it's just great. So I'm not just, talking head, pull the string. There's a snake in my boot, It's better if it's more interactive. It's more interesting for everybody. But I just want to say that somewhere along the line, and this is a repeat of what I said last time, somewhere along the line, I changed. I went from sort of having an attitude about use cases as sort of like wah 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 wah, wanna limited utility blah, and I pivoted, and somewhere I don't even know. I want to even say in the last 5 years or something, I really realized that the number one fundamental exercise of skill in use case design is empathy. Okay. And that's this part where you put yourself outside of yourself. You get outside and you try to see a thing from somebody else's perspective and not from your own little trapped in perspective, you know? And where you can see this thing really manifest is in a lot of software. Like, if you ever see software and like where it goes, like let's say there's a field where you're supposed to put your last name. This is less of a thing. I've seen this a lot less in the last 10 years than I did prior to that. But somebody will have like a label for that, right? And it should say something like last name. And sometimes you'll see it, and literally the text that's exposed to the user is like last name in camel case, you know, or last underscore name, or, lowercase l, capital N. And you're like, oh my gosh, they just gave to your grandma. There's an 80-year-old user out there. I don't know if your grandma's 80, but there's an 80-year-old user out there who's going to try to parse, lowercase l, capital N, all jammed together because it's a frickin' variable name, right? That's what they put as the label. That is myopic, right? Which is short-sightedness. That is an absolute failure to grok that other people's view of the system is not yours. It's so the biggest number one thing about use cases is to invite you to get outside of your own view of the thing and to view it from, from a user's perspective. The principle's really valuable all across the world of design. When you're dropping comments into your code, for example, are you writing, who's your audience? It's not to the compiler because it's comments. Compiler's going to ignore it. Could be to you, but really it's to somebody. It is to somebody that doesn't already know how this code works. Can you think like that? Can you write to that person? Or are you simply going to write to yourself and say things that you don't even understand, right? That you're not going to even understand that in a year. That it's code, that it's encoded. It means something to you that others can't see, right? We talked about the curse of knowledge, did we not? Did we not talk about the curse of knowledge? Okay, use cases are really an attempt to get you outside that curse of knowledge. Think about the user. That's the big struggle. Okay. So where does this come from? Right? Where do use cases come from? And by the way, when we get to UML, you're just going to see that the use cases they're kind of dumb looking. They really are dumb looking, as like, what's the word? Notation. What are these? What are these models? Modeling language. It'll be a little goofy. It has been common when designing software to try to embody and articulate typical user scenarios, and I'll give you one example, and it is and I'll give you a contrast. If any of you have an iPhone, if you use the music app on your iPhone, and you happen to be, let's go to mine here. I go to artist, and I do something obscure and cool like the B-52s. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the 80s, late 80s, right? And I start playing Cosmic Thing. Okay. Anyway, there comes a point where when I'm looking at this thing and I want to try to just make my way back to how I got there. I want to follow breadcrumbs backward. Now, it's possible that I just have lost the metaphor somewhere along the way. But I have wrestled with how do I make just go back. I'm listening to a song. I want to go back to that album. From there, I want to go back to, there's a hierarchy, right? I go from artists to a particular artist to their albums, to one album, to listening to a song. On Spotify, I can do it. At least I can figure out how to do it on Spotify. But either it can't be done or I can't figure it out, which really, at the end of the day, doesn't really matter, right? What difference does it make to a user? Can't be done or you can't figure it out. Well, if you're the 80-year-old grandma, it doesn't really matter, does it? I happen to be not 80 and not completely inept, but you know what I'm trying to say. That's just one example, though, of where, and it's a failure in the use case. It's a failure to grok the fact that somebody in this position, somebody in this moment on this screen like listening to a tune like Cosmic Thing by the B-52s, and listening in that moment, you have to be able to conceptualize what are the things that they just most want to do next. And the answer is typically not buy your product or give you money. You try to insert that in and it can screw up the flow quite a bit, even though I understand why we have to, do the ask. But anyway, it's this idea of typical user interactions. What is the user most of the time going to want to do? Okay. Typically they're informal, and honestly, they're rarely documented. You know, it usually takes the form of you draw some pictures on a whiteboard, someone takes a picture of the whiteboard, and on the whiteboard you write down things that they do. But it's really worth a great deal to take the time to try to understand, what the user is actually going to most want to do. Okay. Sorry, hold on really quick. There. I just need to throw a little heat on my feet. Okay. So Martin Fowler, you have access, by the way, to the UML book by Martin Fowler via the Safari Books Online, via UVU. Is everybody able to get to that? Did we have this discussion already about Safari Books? I feel like we did when we were trying to find the Head First book, which is an O'Reilly book. Yeah. Do you guys remember?
I remember talking about O'Reilly. I'm not sure about the Safari books.
Yeah, I don't remember the Safari books either.
It might just be. I wonder if I was smart enough. Any sentence that I can think of that starts that way is, I just have this dark feeling that it's bound to maybe end with no, if the question is whether I was smart enough. Okay, let me try something. Come on. I was just going to try to figure out is whether I was smart enough to drop that into the syllabus. Having figured this out last semester, it would have been very smart for me to have actually just dropped that information at the time that I knew it. I didn't do it. I'm such a dumb. Okay. I'm just looking on the course on the Canvas page. Okay, let's get this, and then let's get this, drop it in the link and figure this part out at least. I'm doing a login. It might even be just O'Reilly. I might be thinking of it as, it may have previously been called Safari Books Online. I'm back to learning.o'reilly.com, just for everybody's edification. And then when you go there and you do the single sign-on and you use your UVU credentials, that's the idea. Let me see if I've got, yeah, I do have it. Okay, no, we're good. We're home free. Once you're logged in, so the same place where you log in for your Head First Design Patterns, second edition. I'm just waiting for a slow website. While we're waiting, by the way, I feel like I might be slightly better than I was on Monday in terms of just recovery. It's just very slow process, but I feel like maybe progress. Maybe. Still feels like a way. Okay. All right. So yeah, let me see something. And then here's a link. So it has to be, so Devin, it has to be uvu.edu and not the my.uvu. That's true. I don't even know what my.uvu. I only have the, C. Knutson at UVU.
It used to be that when they gave you your email, it was my.uvu.edu, and most logins still work with that, but I know for some you can't have the my dot in it anymore.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that clarification. So there's the link, and I think if you actually even link straight on that, in fact, you guys want to just try? You want to just try and see if you can get to it? Because that's the UML book. I want you, as we start into UML, to actually, there'll be some reading assignments. It's not heavy. I just want you to, give it a read through. And all the examples that I'm doing in class are pulled out of Fowler's book. But, if you could just go and give it a read as well. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm back over on the Canvas page. I'm going to just do a quick edit and at least just add the link. I need to restructure it to emphasize Fowler better, but even without doing that, I can at least add the link that I just dropped into the chat. Okay, so that's there now. And then later on, when I shift it, at least it'll have the link. And I do need to, because it's not a required text per se, but I do have chunks that I want you to look at. Okay, that I want you to read. Is that cool for everybody? All right, so Devin said, once you're signed in, then that link works. If you just click on the link before you're signed in, will it let you sign in and then take you there?
Yes.
Does? Awesome. Okay. All right, cool. Glad we got that sort of resolved. Okay. Back to use cases, okay? So that's the Fowler book of which I speak, Martin Fowler. The use case diagram, so Fowler didn't create UML, but it's an attempt to document the UML. Okay, hang on real quick. Okay. A sequence of steps, so a scenario, a sequence of steps describing an interaction between a user and a system. Okay, all right. But the idea is that there's a scenario. The biggest challenge with use cases is you cannot fully specify, it's just really impractical, fully specify a system using just use cases. Brutally difficult, okay? And the reason is because to try to document, how many different things might a user want to do at a certain point? Well, every one of those things that you might do could become a use case. User is at the blah, blah, blah screen. And literally, if you look at the branching structure of the program, you could drop your sort of scenario into any node in that big decision tree, right? And a really complex piece of software, that decision tree can branch out really massively. And essentially, the design of that decision tree, when you go, here are the 5 things you can do you see how that by itself is a bit of an embodiment of a use case? If I have a pull down menu with 10 options, 10's big. Let's say I do. Well, you could say use case. I'm there and I have that menu pulled down and I decide to do the first one, or I decide to do the second one, decide to do the third one, decide to do the fourth. You can view every one of those as a use case, but what the use case is trying to do is give you more of a path through. Like I'm interacting with the system because think like parking systems are notorious, right? Online parking systems that you can access with your phone, right? Some of those are like really easy. Some of them are only easy if you're a regular customer and you do this every day. And then some of them are like never easy, right? But you could be like, I'm just here to get some dinner and I'm going to be parked there for less than 2 hours. Another one is I'm here every single day. And then those are different scenarios, right? And they're gonna cause different pathway. So it's really more like you view it more like a way of trying to get your head around like a persona. And sometimes you do these personas and call them personas and give names to the personas. You know, there's a certain kind of a user, certain kind of a person who wants to use the system in this way. And I've done that in consulting with companies about usability of their design and about even just trying to understand the architecture. Um, here's Paul. He's a power user. Paul, the power user. You know, and here's what he tends to do. And then here's another persona. You actually can give them a name, flesh it out a little bit. What's their motivation? Who are they? Attempt again to be uh, to have empathy, to get outside of yourself. Okay. Um, Here's an example of a scenario. All right. Like buying a product. So, the customer browses the catalog, adds the desired item to the shopping basket. When they're ready to pay, they describe the shipping credit card, right? Confirm the sale. System checks the authorization, confirms the sale with an email, right? That's a scenario, just buying a product. Obviously, a lot more can happen than that. Also, and this is true of any design, you can take it pretty low or you can keep it pretty high. This, frankly, is a little low. This feels a little low to me. Confirms the sale with a follow-up email. It's pretty specific. Is that the thing? Or can we just say, let's take a look at a popular purchasing site like Amazon. I have a lot of experience with it, so that's probably why it jumps out as an example. But you could say, you could also keep it kind of high level and be like, I tend to like when I'm on Amazon, a lot of times I'll come up with something and I'll just like drop it in my what do you call it? Shopping cart. And I'll just find something else later on, drop it in the shopping cart, not actually close it out, just kind of hang on it. A day later, I put something else in the shopping cart. 2 days later, I put something else in the shopping cart. The day after that, I take something back out of the shopping cart. And at some point, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just make this purchase now. So you could give me a name and attach to me this sort of a persona that likes to hang out and keep things in the shopping cart. And there's maybe another persona, and their sort of use cases, they always just like pick, they shop in one burst and they're putting things in the shopping cart. They keep shopping. They don't get interrupted. When they're done, they buy. And there's another scenario where they're using like the one-click buy, right? Where they like see an item they want and they go one click and they bought it. And 2 minutes later, another thing they like, one click and they bought it. And Amazon, of course, will bunch these together and figure out the best packaging for shipping. And then eventually put, a pen like this in a very large box. But no, you know what I'm trying to say? Those would be, in my view, those are three different scenarios, and they're kind of interesting. From a usability perspective, a lot of times what happens is that companies are so bent on one view of their world that in reality, they've maybe only conceptualized one of those buyers. And then when you come rolling through and you don't match the persona, and the way you do the way you interact with the system is not the same as what other people do, then it kind of breaks and doesn't work well for you, So it's a way of kind of trying to reveal blind spots, and recognize. I think personas are very powerful. So here's the idea of a use case. We defined scenario. Fowler then says that a use case is a set of scenarios tied together by a common goal. Again, I don't care, like at this level of granularity, whether this is the right and most accurate way to view that or not, I don't really care. I want to just walk through it. The idea is, though, it can be a set of scenarios tied together by a goal. Like I show up, you could have a person who shops a certain way, a person who purchases a certain way, and each of those could be like scenarios. And then a use case could be, a person who shops this way and purchases that way, gets 3 items, and that's your use case. So it gives you almost like what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, it's like a mock-up. You know what I mean? It's like a mocked-up behavior of what somebody's going to get. They're going to show up. They're going to walk through the door. They're going to take a right. They're going to go over there, and they're going to look for whatever, right? It's a way of conceptualizing what a given user is going to do. The idea here is it gives you a little more description. And so, for example, this one here, buy a product, these are different scenarios. The customer browses the catalog and selects items to buy. That's a certain scenario. You go to checkout, that scenario. You do the shipping part, et cetera, et cetera. You can also have alternatives, like, for example, regular customer being like a repeat customer. You hang on to that information for them. What are the, get you thinking about design. And then, the another one that they call alternative is authorization failure. Like when one of these, the authorization right there, system authorizes purchase, when that fails. And then this next thing is probably goes without saying. How you organize use cases is art, not science. It's just, that's so true. So very, very true. Okay. So another thing about use cases, by the way, I'm gonna lean back a little bit again to try to save my back. I'm feeling that pressure. So if this is okay, hey Danny, hey over there. It just takes some pressure off my back. Okay. This external view of the system, use cases represent an external view. They cannot be about the internal algorithmic details, internal structure, okay? And there's no internal implementation unless that's something that's visible from outside the system. And you don't even have to draw a diagram to be doing use cases. Okay, you got the second big bullet. You don't have to draw a diagram to do a use case. It's one of those that is really more about just thinking about it and writing it down than a particular format for a drawing. Okay. And by the way, be thinking about this. I'm just curious if any of you, how many of you are working probably part-time, could be full-time, in the industry like right now, and how many of you have ever dealt with use cases and what form that takes? Okay, so be ready to kind of go there in just a second. And once again, the way you organize everything is going to just vary. How many, how broad, how narrow, how much detail, et cetera, et cetera. There's our picture right there. But before we get to the picture, how many of you, so first of all, how many of you are doing work already in the industry, very robust software industry here along the Wasatch Front with UVU plunked, in a pretty prime location. How many of you?
Does QA count?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think so. Except for the fact that when you're doing QA, use cases are less, right, of a thing for QA. Although even that can still be a thing, right? You can still use use cases as a way. In fact, who was it that said that? Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about later on is that every single one of these UML diagrams also carries with it and embodies with it ways of doing testing, ways of doing test case design. So, right, if there's a use case that I can conceptualize, I can draw a set of test cases, right, that follow a certain kind of usage as well. And they might even inspire like a test case like what happens if an item has been in somebody's, shopping cart for 7 months, or what if it stays there long enough that the price changes, right? These are good test cases. But a use case conceptualization could get you thinking about different test cases, right? Makes sense, right, Sam?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's relevant too because it kind of depends how you test, and it can also depend on what's worth taking time for. If
Right.
you're testing thoroughly, you may use the software in very unconventional ways, and if there's a time crunch, which there always is,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you may have to make decisions about whether or not it's really something worth fixing or taking the time to really thoroughly explore versus other things or just stuff like that.
yeah. I just dropped a survey. It just says survey. I work in the software industry right now. And then just go in there and add reaction. And you're looking for what's the best one? Should we go Y and N for like yes and no? Or you can go thumbs up or thumbs down. No geek glasses. Geek glasses could be yes, I suppose. Who did that? Like, I don't know, right? What's the best way to do it? Yes or no? I like the Y and N, or we can do thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's consolidate. We'll go thumbs up for yes, and do we have a thumbs down, right? Where is the thumbs down? Okay, there's the thumbs down. So consolidate around the thumbs up and the thumbs down. And I'm going to take mine away. Yeah, just curious. Let's see, 6, 9, 10, 11. We got 3 that have not responded to the survey. Come on. Come on, chappies. Website hosting. Yeah, no, Mitch, I'd go yeah. Right? Because you still have to deal with testing, deployment testing, right? And scenario testing. Yeah. Okay, so we got 7 and 4. 7 yes that are working in the industry right now, and now down to 3 that are not, and 1 missing. Who's missing? Come on. Somebody's not. They went off to go get a quesadilla. Have you, for those that are working in the industry, have you seen anything formal or informal that you think would qualify as a use case? Does not matter whether they used UML or if there was a certain diagram, format or anything formal. Just have you seen anything that you would, consider a use case based on the description that I've given here for what a use case is? Come on, come on. And really, I'm talking to the six that said thumbs up on the survey that you work in the industry right now. I can do another. Let's do another survey. Let me just do another survey.
I mean, with my work, we've done diagrams before. Like I do DevOps, so we've like laid out Kubernetes networking and.
Okay, sure.
Oh.
So there are 6 candidates for this survey question. I've seen something in the industry that looks like a use case, and it could be yes or no. And I'm just curious. Once you the other, we got 3 and 1.
I would say yes, but just so simple. I don't know how simple you can be and still be a use case. Like I order a medication and it works.
I think honestly, I feel like that's a use case. I mean, it's non-elaborate, but it does get you thinking. To me, the fundamental motivation of every UML diagram, or frankly of any diagram at all, is to get you thinking better about design, to refine your design. Think about some of the options. Think about some things. So I would say, I think it's a use case. It's not crazy helpful. It doesn't, I mean, like, you have to start thinking about. You understand that the idea, if we stick with shopping carts again, the idea that something's in your shopping cart and before you check out, the price changes, right? What do you do about that? That's a use case. It's a part of a use case, or it could be the whole thing, really. But it's just this opportunity to think about, So I'm thinking about the use case of like, there's this person that just doesn't check out that often. Then that gives rise to a bunch of questions like, what happens when an item ages in the cart? And you know what I mean? And we don't even stock it anymore. Or the price changes dramatically, or that vendor, it used to be whatever, Amazon Prime, and now it's not, or whatever. You know what I mean? It gets you thinking differently and causes you that's the number one value. Okay. Anybody else of the looks like 6 and 2, 6 versus 2 said you've seen something industry. What else? Who else that didn't share? What was it? What'd you see? Bueller? Come on, chappies. What was it you saw? Fess up. Blake, Big Steve, Rick. Oh, 3 others. Let me see. Come on. Tell me who they are. Don't just give me that.
I kind of said mine before, but yeah, just like really super narrow use cases that we've seen.
Yeah. What about the others? Come on. Those of you that clicked on that. Come on, Bueller.
Some of the time in the team I'm on uses Agile, like everybody, but a lot of the time when the stories are expressed and talked about, they'll have descriptions of of the use cases in there and sort of what the expectations are when it comes to that, and the behavior is defined
Gotcha.
there as well.
Okay, that's cool. And then Braden said, you've seen examples of more famous products like Facebook or Google, right, that weren't in a company you're working for, but saw a use case in some other setting. All right, that's totally cool. So here we go. Look at that. That's crazy, right? This is one of those just kind of goofy sort of diagrams. Again, apologies for leaning back. My back. This is the actor, the one acting, the one performing the action. Again, the interface has to be to the system. And again, one of the things that you're going to get from me throughout our time talking about UML is simultaneously, I want you to look at UML, look at its features. Every feature in every diagram of UML exists because in design, there are things that need to be represented. So they have to therefore have features, right, in UML. So when you're trying to do design and you're new and someone just makes you design something and you're just like, I don't know, what do I do? I don't even know how to do design. If you simply look at what the things are that you can represent in UML for a particular kind of diagram, what you're going to see is forms of design. Does that make sense? In other words, if you show me like a class diagram and there are features to hang on to this representation, then you recognize that that thing that's being represented is itself a form of, it represents design and can actually teach you about things you should be considering as you do design. Okay? Thanks, Mitch. That's me. The back and body hurts. Man, you have no idea. Maybe you do, but so Braden said, when I think of bad use case implementation, my mind goes immediately to video games, specifically games with good logic but ugly user interface and display of sad logic. And I think, yeah, that does make sense. Depends on what the sadness of the logic is, But if it's sort of like, if there's like 3 reactions you might have to winning something, or, three natural human reactions, and the use case, which is modeled after the developer, only celebrates the developer's reaction, but not your reaction, right? It's going to feel super lame. Anyway, so these things here, again, read Fowler. I don't care too much, and I'm not going to be a stickler on all the syntax of UML. Okay, I will not. We have this idea of this use case having sub-use cases so that this use case can include this other use case. That's not bad when you're trying to construct, right? So you can just say, here's the quick purchase, the one-click purchase person, that use case. And, and I could build a use case where I use the one-click versus the one where it stays in their cart for 7 months, right? That you could use that way of building a little more modularity into your use cases. You can do generalization and specialization like inheritance. And you can also do extension points where you extend this thing by taking that one use case and adding on to it these other things. That's it. Here again, and my problem with use cases is just that the graphics get so bad. The little stick figure, the little stick men, And my other problem is that a lot of Fowler's, these are all Fowler's examples, but I often don't like them. And maybe it's because they're systems that I'm not working with these systems, so I don't know the system, so it all feels confusing. Or maybe the difficulty is that real systems are more complex. If they're simple enough to be trivial to understand, they might be worthless, right? But instead, if they're complex enough to be accurate, then using it as like a teaching example becomes difficult. So you wind up trying to have a small example with a lot of meaningfulness. That's just tall order. Okay. Anyway, notice just that we identify individual use cases like limit exceeded. We identify individual actors, and then you see the various chunks. That's it. But again, those are the use cases right there. And I don't want to bog down on this too much, but things that happen in a use case, you describe the use, name it, show the actors, relationships, other cases, could be viewed as an execution thread through the system. No way it can be comprehensive. Cannot be. And you could use it as a starting point for analysis. Then here come the actors, stick figure dudes. There they are. The actors are the ones who are doing the thing. They carry out the cases. And it can be multiple actors that are dealing with a single use case. Also, in some instances, one actor can carry out multiple use cases. It doesn't have to be human, it could just be roles. So the actors could be other systems interacting with your system, right? Some people like to show all the external systems or human actors, who's the initiator of the use case. This depends on whether that's valuable to you. There are people, in terms of the actors, there can be people, that's pretty obvious, but there can be systems, right? Some other device or automated, whatever. Time actors, which are time-based triggers for something to happen. And then just other actors. The actors are the most common starting place for an analysis. Talk to me. Tell me why. Talk to me.
Well, you're making a system for people. That's why you're doing the thing.
That's right. You are doing it for people, right? And the people are going to be the ones who are going to interact with it. There are a lot of situations where, and whether the actors are people or not, right? It's still a common starting place. I don't know exactly all the reasons why, but I think that the fact that you're like, there's action happening, you're moving. Hey, hold. Oh, man. I have a call. I hate this. Hold tight. Hold tight. Hello? Yeah. Hey. Uh-huh. Yeah. I realized that that the methylcarbamol, it was set up to, we had like 6 left and it was going to go, 2 days. So that's actually out. I was curious if we want to, does it seem, I can't tell whether it's helping or not. It's not hurting, but I can't separate it. You know what I mean? I can't say, oh, that had an impact. But it might, and I don't know. But I'm curious if we should refill that and do that, or what? We could try some cyclobenzaprine as long as it doesn't have goofy side effects. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I like that. Yep. All right. Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks so much. Bye. Hello. Hey. hey, sorry, it's like the back thing. They have a tendency to call back. And then if you miss it, you got like a distinct chance of not getting through to anybody today. You know what I mean? So I really apologize for that, but it's the timing on these things is sometimes goofy. So I really apologize. What else? Oh, external events also can trigger behavior, just like the weather drops below freezing and the sensor triggers, some action. Timer goes off, time of day, something. You get the idea. All right, everyone's back, right? I'm okay. I'm back on audio.
We're here.
Sounds good.
Awesome,
Yep.
thank you. We talked about include a little bit. It's a way of modularizing it, where there's a dependency. One or more use cases has a dependency on another use case. Avoids having to duplicate that case. You can reuse it. Makes sense. Fowler says, use include when you're repeating yourself in 2 or more separate use cases. You want to avoid repetition. That's it. And then there's generalization, which gives you that generalization specialization that you recognize from object-oriented programming. Again, ways of kind of like specializing, So like in this case, there's like this capture deal, which I don't even know what it is, right? But there's like this capture deal, but one in which the limits are exceeded, which again, we don't even know what that means. A regular capture deal, presumably where the limits are not exceeded, and then this one where the limits are exceeded. Yeah. Use generalization when you're describing a variation on normal behavior. You wish to describe it casually. Fine. Cool. When one's a special case of another. This is the extend we talked about. When you've got a variation of normal behavior and you want to use this sort of more controlled form, right? So that's kind of what extension is all about. And then here's an example, which I'm not even going to go into because, frankly, my back hurts. But you can kind of noodle on that a little bit. Different users, different actors. I shouldn't call them users, they're actors. Again, if I had more energy, we would like tear into this a little more. UML, like everything, winds up being, kind of dependent upon, you get a certain fluency and then it can kind of make sense, right? And without the fluency, you're like, okay, it's a little confusing. But again, even if you never do UML, if you study this for a minute and try to understand it better, you realize that when you're ready to go do your own design, even if you're doing informal stuff on a whiteboard in the office, and then someone just takes a picture of it, and then someone posts that, to your Slack channel or something, that's actually, that's getting you thinking about stuff. And then even when you don't have to be formal in your notation to think about, to think about what you can do, when therefore the ideas in design that you can be thinking about from a design perspective. I think this might be it. No, close. Oh man, come on. I was hoping it would just end all of a sudden. How are we doing on time? 3:30. Sorry, this is a new dynamic for me, which is just like watching the clock because the pain is mounting. The use case model.
I don't think anyone would be upset if you called it early, Professor.
I know. No, that's totally true, which I think I probably will. Gosh, let me see. What are we coming to here? I don't want to talk about that right now. Deriving them, no, I do not want to talk about that. And then there is an in-class exercise, which I'll try to do next time. I want to just do one thing just because it's more of a fun thing, which is, can we just do a couple of these? Remember we started doing these, design of everyday things? Can I just hit with a couple of these? Because it might just help me to smile a little bit. Okay. You ready? Ready to rock and roll? Okay. What about that one? I think that's unclear messaging.
Either you care about the environment or it's just really gross.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the idea of, 100% recycled fiber, yes, but 100% recycled bath tissue seems to suggest that you're literally recycling toilet paper and reconstituting it. So one approach, you could separate those two, right? Like bath tissue, and then someplace else, 100% recycled fiber, or something to separate those. The way it reads, it's a little dicey. I took that one. How about that one? I took that one, I think.
Mitch had a good comment.
What was it? Where is it? Oh, then the full circle just makes it all the worse. On the previous one, hang on. Where's the full circle? Oh, full circle market, yeah. Yeah, what is that? It's all bad.
Is that a store name brand? I don't remember
I
which.
guess, but that logo looks like, I don't know. It's all very confusing. Anyway, that was a good one. Ask an associate for a demonstration. What is going to happen? Unclear messaging. Okay, how about this one? Redundant labeling. Now, this was one, by the way, this came, I think this actually came like that. This is what's the brand on this guy? Well, actually, I think it's the next slide. I'll tell you what the brand is. Vizio. But you've got this remote, like, I don't know, do you need to tell me that? And then you're covering up your actual brand? I don't understand that at all. That's real. That was like in my own home. Now I don't know if somebody got excited about labeling, you know what I mean? But that's not like the normal label maker labels. So I'm pretty sure that was built and came like that. In case somebody didn't know what a remote is, I guess. I don't know. This one is an interesting thing. Okay, what is it? What is it? Quickly tell me, what is this? What is in this bucket?
Yogurt?
Okay, what's the other option?
Could be Greek.
It is, well,
Very unclear.
It is Greek.
Whole milk.
It's all Greek to me.
Or like
whole milk, Greek
cottage
plain.
cheese, or
Well, check out the
I don't
texture.
know.
What's another thing that looks just like this, that looks like the same texture as yogurt?
Sour
Sour cream, right? Now, that is my hand. I took this picture myself. Okay. Now, if you look around, okay, there it is. Okay, it's hiding right there. Yogurt, hiding over here. Now, in my extended family, there's sometimes a lack of finesse on certain things. And we were doing something like I don't know, baked potato bar or something like that, where you wanted to serve sour cream. And it looked right, and somebody had served this for the sour cream, right? But it didn't jump out. And Greek plain, if this was, the survey says, and it's the Family Feud or whatever, you're going to kind of go yogurt is the best guess, but it looks like sour cream. and it was just going down. It was just like sour cream, and it was all yogurt. Crazy. This is another one that I took, and I'll just do a little bit of this, and then we can come back. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of this. This is more just to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, I call this one obfuscated labeling. Now, this is actually from Wallabies in American Fork. There's also a Wallabies. Where's the other Wallabies? Oh, Orem. Like
yeah,
State
on
Street and
State
Center.
Street.
Yeah. And by the way, I just want to say for the record, I like Wallabies, okay? I'm a fan of Wallabies. But Wallaby Smokehouse, okay? What am I looking at? What is it?
Barbecue sauce?
Right on. Now, next question. I got 2 bottles. What are they? What kind of barbecue sauce?
Smoky.
Well, they both say that. And Wallaby Smokehouse, I think, is the official name of the restaurant. They both say Smokehouse, right? It's like, okay, let's keep going though. Now you're just sitting here and you look down at it. This is my view, looking straight down. Now what is it? Can you tell? What is it? What kind of barbecue sauce do I have?
Zesty?
I'm going to go zesty. There we go. But do you see how I had to work at it? I had to work at it. Friend, and again, this is my angle, whatever, at my height. I'm a little taller than average, but you know, so that's zesty. But what about that one? What is it?
Ghost pepper.
Good guess. What does it say? So it's the green, dark green on dark gray. That actually says raspberry, but you can't frickin' read it. Get it right up in the grill, and now it's like still you're like, okay, raspberry. Okay, what about that one? Even worse. Man, I mean, we're getting in there, right? Okay, that says original, but I literally got to lift it up. So I've just introduced this overhead where I've got to handle every bottle before I can tell at a glance what's going on. Okay. Now let me do, I'm going to do one more and then I'm going to call it a day. And we'll end just a little bit early because as we all know, Dr. K is in pain right now and I need to go sit in my chair and continue my recoup. Okay, what about that one? Where's the lock? Now, by the way, I took this one. This is actually at Nico's Pizza on Cougar Boulevard. And what's important about that is that Nico's is my favorite pizza place in the state of Utah. You can go to Sete Bello in Salt Lake for truly authentic margarita pizza. Nico's is kind of Boston thin crust. Oh, by the way, oh nice, Braden just found this picture. Yeah, see? Now, and you can see at a glance, sweet and spicy, the zesty, the raspberry. I think they may have, right? That's awesome. Thank you. Maybe they learned. Okay, where's the lock? Where's the lock?
I don't know on that one, but at the place I used to work, they had similar to that in the bathrooms where you couldn't figure out how to lock the doors.
And it's kind of important, right, to be able to lock the door.
It's one of those that just has like a little pin on the bottom or something, or just off to the side of the handle.
It is true that this is one with a pin on the bottom, but check it out. That's getting closer. You still can't tell. Boom, there it is. Okay. Now, I actually cheated because I covered over right here. Remember when you have to have a sign? That's the actual door. It has that sign. Lock under handle. Push. And that sign is way bigger than the handle. Anyway, and I want to just say, this is a really great example, but I do love Nico's, okay? I really, I recommend Nico's to all of you as a place for really just great pizza. All the food is great there, but that Boston thin crust, it's really good. Love it. I miss it because I've been out of commission for my stupid surgery and then the complications after the fact. All right, okay, amigos. Should we call it? Let's call it. I'm in pain. And we get the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. And keep doing the patterns things, okay? Tim will stay ahead of you, I promise. And keep working on the heads up patterns. And then as soon as I get just a little more bandwidth in my brain and body, I will go back to some of the beginning ones on the little whatever we're calling them, small projects. Now those I'll go through and grade those. It's not going to take long, and I really do want to kind of see those myself. So, Braden, were you gonna? Oh, there we go. Sliding door. What's the deal on this guy? Oh, it's a sliding door. Yeah. So you go ahead and you slide that bad boy, and then it just opens up anyway. That's nice. All right, let's do this. What I'm going to do.
Oh,
what's that?
I was gonna say real quick. I was over this past week there's a lot of subreddits for poorly designed and crazy things.
Oh, really, Sam?
One I found that's kind of a gold mine is called tombstoning, and it's from newspaper layout design failures, where you end up having a headline or an advertisement or a picture next to each other that just should not go together.
Oh, interesting.
There's a lot of duds, but some of them are gold, with a cute little corgi, and then a headline that says "Violent sex offender apprehended."
Well, right, like the one I showed, right? I had the one with.
I can link that if you'd like.
That would be
But
fabulous. Yeah.
I just thought that some of them
No, I
are
love
really
it.
good.
It'd be
It's a
great if
gold
you could
mine.
drop that subreddit link for us. I'd really appreciate that. But it's like the one I was dropping about, like 25 best roller coaster rides in America, and then right next to that is this article about this roller coaster ride accident where 6 people die or whatever, at Six Flags or something, right? Just that, maybe it's that same idea. I don't know. And if anybody else has any, if there's like a subreddit on like Norman doors, for example, there probably is. I would be shocked if there isn't. But Sam, you'll go ahead and drop that right into the chat.
Yeah, I'll do that right.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. All right, let's wrap. I got to officially stop early, and we're 2 minutes from official early, and I'm going to go put ice all over my body. That's my next move.
See you later.
All righty. See you, everybody. All right, I'm just going to bail out fast.